So Evan, give us a little bit of an overview of, what the news around this latest round of SBIR grant funding is. And let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of getting funding to those companies who are doing some cutting edge research.
Yeah. So just this past week, Governor Andy Beshear announced that 8 Kentucky companies that are working in very innovative technologies will be receiving about $900,000 of state funding that matches grants from the SBIR program. So SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. And then as part of that, there's also Small Business Technology Transfer. So these are matching funds programs. So this is really important. The funds are in part that match the $3.15 million that's going to be given to these companies via federal grants as well. So as I said, the state's coming in and matching some of these funds from the federal government to support these highly innovative companies here in the state. And the companies range from health tech, ag tech, biotech, and then carbon capture technology. So pretty wide range of technologies here and companies building. So it's amazing to see, as we said, the state support these companies with grants. So it's non-dilutive funding, which is another important aspect of this. As a founder, you're building very high risk technologies. And, if you can ever get any kind of funding that's non-dilutive where somebody's not taking a percentage of your ownership early, then that's important because you have to be incentivized throughout the entire lifetime of the company to continue building. So anything non-dilutive is important here. So what stood out to you as part of this slogan?
Yeah, I think, one, it's cool to be able to highlight the direct work that, one of our sponsors is actually doing. One of the things that I've always been really proud about with Middle Tech and the way we managed to monetize as a company is that all of the companies that sponsor us are also very aligned on the mission that we have to support the startup ecosystem here, especially in Kentucky. So one, it's cool to see and be able to highlight some of that work directly. One of the things that I've kind of noticed around all of this though, is as we kind of see the companies that are receiving this funding on building more research-based companies, is I think I'm noticing a little bit of a gap in terms of the companies that Middle Tech highlights. I would love to really see us dive into some of these more research-based companies. Whenever we think of, or at least when we thought of the companies that we wanted to highlight, Middle Tech itself, we tend to highlight software companies and tech companies. Like Evan just mentioned, this is kind of a different beast in terms of the type of company that's being built there. A lot of them are commercializing university research or building things that are very like hard tech, new and innovative research and figuring out ways to commercialize that. So I think one of the takeaways for me from this story is like, there are some really cool research-based companies being built in Kentucky. And I think that's an opportunity for Middle Tech to come in and highlight some of those companies being built. So as you can see on the screen that Evan's sharing there, you can see some of the names of the companies there. We'll link to this article so you can dive in and read a little bit more about them. But Evan, I know that Tom Martin also sent a little quote here as well. Do you want to read over that and also talk just about why Tom is commenting on this in the first place, his perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So Tom Martin, he's the dean of the business school at EKU. He's had experience working with, the government very closely and has various roles here in the state, especially with innovation. So he says SBIR is something taxpayers should be very proud of. It's America's early stage fund, scaling high risk technologies in early stages that private enterprise is hesitant to invest in because the risks are high and the returns are unknown. This de-risking actually accelerates private sector investment. SBIR is a great example of a collaborative capacity of the government and private sector. So there's 11 government agencies that partner with SBIR, including the Department of Defense, NSF, and NASA. So really what he's saying here is, I love what he said about this is America's early stage fund. These grants are going into some very important research and technology that, as he said, are very high risk, that the private market is likely not to fund because the upsides are just unknown. It's very research based. And so I think he really sums it up well and says these types of grants and funding are essential to get new technology off the ground. And that oftentimes what we're finding, with our interviews with people like Ian McClure, in the state that are commercializing technology out of our universities, you often realize that there is so much capital and infrastructure behind a lot of this research. And this is why it has to happen inside of universities, because the universities are able to front that cost of labs, resources, materials, and do it in the name of research and education. And hopefully out of that comes technologies like this that then the government can subsidize and give these funds to. But then eventually people like Ian McClure then work to commercialize them and take them out of the university so that the general
Hmm.
public and private markets can take advantage of it. So it's really like Tom said, this is a collaborative effort. And I think this is a really great program that we should be proud of.
Yeah, that private public partnership, I think, is just an important aspect of this, and something that is it's good to see when it's working correctly. I know that we can kind of be tough when we talk about government programs sometimes, whether it's on our Friday update that we talked about in the past or on our podcast. But this is a case of it really being done in the right way. So it's fun to be able to highlight that sort of stuff.